everyone, welcome back. It's the chassis variant series. I can't remember, it's been so long. MechWarrior Online added a new mech. It's the Hatchetman. It's here. Woo! Yay! Look, it's got a hatchet. You can't use it though. It's just there for looking. This is the standard 3F. That's what we're going to be seeing in this video. Interesting notes here. It has ballistics points in both side torsos. One in each. Actually, no, I'm reading that wrong. There's two in the in the right torso, one in the left torso with its AMS slot, and it's got three energy slots in the left arm and one in the right arm. I'm not quite sure how the right arm energy hardpoint works with regards to this hatchet, which is a bolt-on, so presumably it falls off when it gets hit. It'd be amusing if you fired and it fell off. That would be kind of funny. Outside of that, I've maxed out the armor, because once you put double heat sinks in an endo steel structure, you've got tons of free weight if you're just running it in stock. But of course, if you don't, you've got a lot of weight to play with for those ballistic hardpoints. High mounted, very good for that reason. I'm sure it would be popular with some. It kind of feels like you're running a Innisphere Hunchback 2C with the double ballistics either side like that, though it's got a thinner profile. I went for a kind of Lyran Guard kind of colour scheme here because it's a Lyran mech. So, yeah, it's got maxed out skill points, mostly in things like armor and target retention, ammunition, velocity, all those good things, the usual things you'd put for this mech in a standard loadout. But we'll see how it goes, and we'll hop over to the round now. Right, and after that seamless shift over to the gameplay, here we go. We can see it all getting all ready and shit.
Sensors online.
Let's just make sure there's no extra sound coming over there. We'll just do the old mutesy poo. Right, so you can see the hatchet there. It does actually move around with the hand. Amusingly, it does look like you can smash the glass with it. But nice touch nonetheless. I did also discover that you can't actually get the bolt-on hatchet shot off, which is nice. It's okay. At least you get to actually look like the Hatchetman the whole time. But the background of the mech, it is actually a mech of a few firsts, double checking the information on it. It was a mech that came out in 3023, which was quite impressive at the time because new chassis hadn't been developed for around about 100 years at that point, if not more. So it was the first brand new battle mech to be introduced to the Innisphere. It was also the early signs of the first kind of working relationship between the Federated Suns and the Lyran Commonwealth, which, as you all know, eventually resulted in the creation of the Federated Commonwealth. It was technically, it's a Federated Suns mech because of the designers being based on New Avalon, but it was built in the Lyran Commonwealth, so that's why it's kind of a joint effort in that respect. But it became immediately popular with both great states. The mech is also quite unique for the fact that it has a full head ejection system, one that the same developer would eventually port over to the Axeman, which, as the name suggests, when the pilot needs to escape, rather than just firing out in the little pod, the head itself angles up and launches away, protecting the pilot and actually giving them a much further distance to get away from the battle zone a lot safer. It was actually praised for this feature for its time. Other than that, though, the mech is relatively frail. It doesn't have a lot of armor, and its weaponry is decent for 45 tons, but it also lacks things like ammunition for extended range engagements, and its backup weapons once its ammo out is pretty weak. A pair of medium lasers, one in each arm. Now, as you saw in the mech lab earlier, you can see that this version with PGI, they've literally had to buff it. They've had to give it more hard points to make it viable, because frankly, it's good because it has a high-mounted right torso ballistic point. But we already have two mechs that have high-mounted torso ballistic hardpoints in the medium category. You've got the Hunchback, for instance, the immediate first. You've got things like the Shadowhawk. So it wasn't really, and never will, stand out. Unfortunately, MechWarrior Online's ability to just kind of homogenize everything and make them all kind of run the same way has largely robbed the Hatchetman of one of its only other unique kind of aspects. Obviously, the most unique aspect would have been the ability to hit something with a fucking hatchet, but BGI can't code it, or don't want to code it, or never had any intention, so melee combat was just never going to be, sadly, a feature of MechWarrior Online, even though that's probably, I would hazard, one of the most, if not the most commonly requested new feature to this game in its, nearly 10 years, if not 10 years, lifespan at this point. And, you know, the Hatchetman is a popular mech because its main selling point is it chops stuff to death. So it's nice to finally see it, As a selling point, though, unless you're like a really big fan of the mech itself, which it is cool, it looks nice in game. It's nice to see that they've kept relatively close to the original design. They've just tweaked it in a few areas here and there. It's not going to be doing anything amazing for you. If you're more of a player of MechWarrior Online based around what's the absolute best kind of quirks combination with weapon hardpoints and locations, I don't really think this one is going to do a hell of a lot for you that other mechs don't already achieve.
Get back to work, Rocket.
I am back to work. Oh,
Skiving off again, Rocket.
he fell over in the ice outside the facility, and he's been, for some reason,
I am a Debbie presenter.
he's recovering in my pod in my bed. So I'm trying to do this.
Back to work.
Will you shut up? There's not much left of this.
Tell me to shut up.
You in my pod, my fucking rules, Holden. Anyway,
Back to work.
I am. So it's a tough sell. I think, as I said, it's really only going to be one of those purchases that you're going to want to grab if you're a big fan of the mech, as I said. Otherwise, yeah, it's a pricey package as well. It's $40. You only get the one new chassis. I haven't tried out the Hero. The other variants, there are some interesting ones in there. I have to admit that the late version, I think it's the 7R, something like that has the weird quirk of having 7 energy hardpoints in the left arm, which, you can make some silly builds out of that thing, no doubt.
Chicken soup.
I'm not getting you any bloody soup.
Chicken soup.
Mrs. Mibbledy will bring you
I
that.
have a bruise on my posterior.
I don't want to think about your posterior at the moment, Holden. It's very, very frightening. Lost my train of thought now, Holden. You said you were going to be quiet during this. Anyway, so... oh god, where was I with this? History. So, combat-wise, it's an urban combat machine. It was never built for an open warfare due to the fact that it has relatively light armor. It relies more on its mobility and its ability to literally jump around and attack targets from unexpected angles. Its battle history is filled to the brim with cases of Federated Sons and Lyman Commonwealth troops leading enemies into heavy built-up industrial areas or residential areas, that kind of thing, and then using the mech's ability to leap over a building and literally just alpha striking and chopping the poor bugger with the Hatchetman, and then leaping away if they don't kill the target outright. They'll certainly do a lot of damage very quickly. The main drawback is that if anyone does actually get a decent amount of counter-fire on the Hatchetman, it is going to struggle. Obviously in MWO, a little bit different. I feel that the mech has pretty decent hitboxes. It does spread damage quite well because it's quite a thin chassis. It has a very rakish kind of appearance, so it can spread the damage between the CT and the left and right torsos quite well. You definitely will want to buff the armor, and you will want to focus on protecting your right torso more than your left, mainly because that's where your ballistics are going to be. Although then again, if you probably your left if you're modifying the 3F, but
My bottom hurts.
well, that's the end of the round. Thank you for joining, everybody. I hope you have a good week. I'll catch you
I
all.
haven't had a good week.
Shut up! Oh, I'm gonna...
Fell over and
You
I saw bomb.
deserve it, you miserable little tosser.